Hi, you're tuned in for the Power and Energy News channel, ESI Africa. For this episode, I am speaking with Edwin Sibiya, who is the chairperson of the South African Metering Industry Association. Welcome to the studio, Edwin.
Thank you very much for having me with you.
Right, so we are here at Enlit Africa,
Yes.
and we've been talking a lot about metering.
Yes.
It is one of the stalwarts in the industry.
Yes.
Let's start off with the power and energy landscape is changing.
Yes.
We see that happening at the moment.
Yes.
We are going through a just energy transition as well.
Yes.
But is there still a place for the traditional meter and the traditional metering industry in the market?
Yeah. That is a very interesting and relevant question to ask. You know, I always say to people, as I was growing up, I used to stare at that analog meter as it turns around, collecting information that one didn't know what is actually happening with it. But because of digitization into coming the fourth industrial revolution, the use of IoT technologies to manage, it puts metering into the center of everything. If you look at the perspective that the meter is where the information lies. Yes. And that information is what's gonna change the landscape within the energy sector. Because previously that information was not shared timelessly to the authorities. As you can imagine, your information of the bill only comes 30 days later, but you wouldn't know what was your pattern of usage within that time. But your bill will then come 60 days because they need to process the bill as well, that it comes to you. But now, what has then changed now is the use of smart meters to accommodate the changes that is coming through. How does it then work? It then works in this way. It's sharing the information timelessly to not only the authority, but the consumer is for the first time being involved in the consumption. Because previously consumers were left outside. And we've always said, don't leave out the very person that you're servicing. And that is how I see the metering is gonna be there for better now, unlike before. But the old ones, I don't see any future prospects for them anymore in the market.
So definitely the smart meter, the prepaid smart meter, yes. But the analog meter, you don't see a space for them.
Like I say, so let's look at it this way. So there was an introduction of a time of use tariff within the industry. If it's an analog meter, it requires someone to walk to your house at some point. But when will you know you were at the high peak or the low peak? Because the unit kept on turning. So with the smart meters, because you've got a built-in clock, it can tell what was the peak, what was the low peaks, and all of that. So in a nutshell, I'm saying that we won't have water meter readers anymore. And besides, why do you need them if you've got a cell phone now, where you can view all that information at the palm of your hand? And that's been what we've been advocating, and this is what we've been pushing on the market.
Yeah, that's a very interesting take on that. I think that there are still thousands of analog meters out there that will then need to be transitioned to the smarter meter to bring the customer closer to the utility.
No, correct. And think about it. And this is a very interesting one. So a water meter reader is expected to work from 8 o'clock, let's say 7 o'clock, until 5 in the afternoon. Now, take an analysis to say how many kilometers are we expecting this guy to walk. So we did that. So it's roughly about 40 Ks. So if you expect the guy to walk 40 Ks daily, do you expect him to go each and every house to get those readings? He won't. And not even that. So you walk into a suburb, the guy must move into houses, then he gets lost like he's in a maze. So he's not sure whether it's been to this house, whether it's not been to that house. Then you end up with a bill which is high because it's an estimate. And these were the challenges that we find in the market to say, analog, we have to do away with it. It's time we move to smarter ways of doing things.
So looking at metering as a tool
Yes.
for the utility
Yes.
in increasing their revenue or just their cash flow,
Yes.
what advice do you have for them? Because we know what metering is.
Yes.
We know how to use it.
Yes.
But what is the standing point that we need to say, this is the basics?
Yes. So let's look at the two different types of metering. So you find in areas where people are paying bills, they push for the use of a prepayment. And why is that? The reason is they don't trust the meter reading exercise. So they say, give me my powers to manage it. Not only does it help the consumer to manage, but it also helps the utility in terms of getting the payment upfront for the service before they use it. The second one is you find also what has been a biggest challenge, especially on the prepayment side, is that then the units that you purchase are projected in technical terminologies, kilowatts, megaliters, and all of that. My mother doesn't understand the kilowatts. She understands monetary value. So tell her about 100 rands. She knows what 100 rands is. If it gets to 30 rand, she understands. And I also tell the people to say, look, as we develop these technologies, people constantly go to such meters as a prepayment to check how much am I left with. But it's not checking how much am I left with. It's to check how long will this thing last.
Yes.
Because you need to know when to buy again. And that is a prepayment. But the prepayment on its own is, let's face it, bills are not being paid. There's a huge debt that is sitting within government in billions of rands that they're trying to recoup from people. And the prepayment solves that for them. And the way it's been sold as a political tool, but it's yet another tool to help people to manage, because you know how much you put in, how much you're going to use, when to slow down and when to accelerate, and that is what it's all about.
Right. We need to make it simpler for the customer.
Definitely. Imagine on a daily basis on your phone, you get at what point of the day is your bill sitting at. Then you can set your limits, you can set your alarms to say every day when I come to this point, please notify me. Then you can be notified and you can start manage from that point.
Right. So as an association, and as a last question for you, Edwin, what are the innovations that you are looking forward to in metering? Because what's the next step?
Yeah, I think maybe as a closing question, so I want to share what we stand for. So what we stand for is the installation of a certified unit within customers' homes, because they pay for the service, so they must use the service which is certified. The other thing that we advocate is the local manufacturing. These units are a designated product. For example, a prepaid electricity meter must have a 70% local content of it to be made in South Africa, which obviously will create jobs and all of that. But as you ask now to say, what is the next step? The next step for the technology is to get that information at the palm of your hand on your cell phone, almost instantaneously during the course of the day as you progress. Then you know your standpoint at any point of the day.
Yeah. And it'll be best for the customer and best for the utility.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for being in the studio here with us and sharing with us today.
It's my pleasure.
And thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe to ESI Africa for more of this type of content.